One moment. Whew. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have a magnificent guest with us today, one who is going to give us some amazing information as well as inspiration, and that is none other than our brother, Dr. Anthony Ishmael. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you, brother?
I'm
And
doing phenomenal, sir.
wonderful, wonderful. Happy Ramadan,
Yes, sir.
and
Ramadan
also
Mubarak.
happy belated Savior's Day to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone who is watching. This is great. Today, as we are in the holy month of Ramadan, our brother is going to break some things down for all of us. And we're excited about that. Yes, sir. Dr. Anthony, we were speaking about you wanting to start off with a prayer for us.
Yes, I wanted to recite a prayer that I think most of your listening audience would know. It is in page 152 of Message of the Black Man, but I'll read it to you in Arabic and then I'll read it to you in English. Um, and So the prayer goes as such, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Al-Humma inni a'udhu bika min al-hummi wa al-hazan wal a'udhu bika min al-adi wa kasal wa a'udhu bika min al-jubni wa bukli wa a'udhu bika min jabalati dani wa kari a rijal al-huma akfini bi halakika an ha aramika wa aganini bi fadlika aman siwaka. So that prayer in Arabic I've just recited goes as such. O Allah, I seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. I seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness, and I seek thy refuge from cowardliness and niggardliness. I seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice thou me with what is lawful and keep me away from that which is prohibited, and with thy grace make me free from want and from what is besides thee. And that is a prayer that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad put in Message of the Black Man, and he wanted us to repeat 7 times a day. It's one of my favorite prayers, and I wanted to learn it in Arabic, and so my Arabic instructor, who is a Sudanese woman by the name of Sister Amo Muhammad, she's from Sudan. Her and her family had to leave Sudan because of the war, and now they're in Egypt right now, and he's been teaching me Arabic since last year in June. Uh, and she's a wonderful sister, and so I just wanted to share that prayer with your listening audience on this Ramadan day. So in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there's no God but Allah. I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. I bear witness that Master Farah Muhammad came to us in July 4th, 1930, and he is the Mahdi messenger. He's Allah in person, and I bear witness that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the exalted Christ, and Minister Louis Farrakhan is our divine reminder, comforter, friend, brother, and he's much, much more than that. He's the Jesus of our time. But we are also that 4th Jesus, because remember, there's 4 Jesuses. There's Master Muhammad, there's the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and Minister Farrakhan, and there's us, the 144,000. We are also the Jesuses that will save humanity and bring humanity back to the true knowledge of self. So with that, I greet you all. Assalamu alaikum on this third day of Ramadan.
Walaikum salam, sir.
Walaikum
And
salam.
thank you, Dr. Anthony Ishmael. Thank you, Sister Miriam, Sister Naima, for saying walaikum salam. And thank you to our YouTube family and everyone who is watching all over the world. We want to get straight into it on the third day of Ramadan with some of the history of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. Um, man, we're going right into you with the history of the four caliphs, and we'll leave it with start with you, sir.
Well, no, what I think you and I were discussing, we were talking about Islamic history. We're talking about how history is so important, especially in terms of getting ready for the minister's departure. I was looking at a YouTube special where they were asking various Muslims what would you do or how would you get ready for the departure of the minister? And I thought it was a very good program. And history is so important. And I think that one of the things that Brother Jabril shared with me and others is that we have to get more rooted and deeper into the study of things, and we can no longer be superficial about it. So many times I was telling you that, some of the ministers over the years, I've heard them repeat cliches. They would say, history of all our studies is most attractive and best qualified to reward our research. And they would stop there and they would never go on. And it would be such a cliche. Okay, what else? But I have the lesson, right? And the lesson from the Department of Supreme Wisdom says, and we go on, first, history of all our studies is most attractive and best qualified to reward our research as it develops the springs and motives of human actions and displays the consequences of circumstances which operate most powerfully on the destiny of the human being. If we are not sufficiently astute in the past, then we are bound to make the mistakes in the future, right? So we must become students of history. So when when the brothers were asking that question, or the interviewers were asking that question, I immediately started to think we have to be grounded not only in the scripture, but we have to be grounded in history as well. We have to understand the history of the past so that we can understand and not make the mistakes that went down in the future. And one of the things that I heard the minister one time say is that when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when it was announced that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had departed, he called his son and he asked his son, what, is it true? And his son Joshua had told him, yes, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has passed away. And so we all knew at that time that the minister was the likely successor or the likely person in the seat to occupy the seat while the messenger was gone. Right? We know about the theology of time where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad put him in the seat. We know about how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, "You are my Aaron, you are my Ali." He even said, on some occasions, and this was said in private as well as in public. But once it was announced that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had departed, then things went down. There was confusion and a lot of backroom politicking was going on behind the scene. And so many people had amnesia in Chicago about these things that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. And of course, it was said that at that time, the minister said that it was announced that Imam Wardi Muhammad was now the new leader of the Nation of Islam, and also that Jeremiah Shabazz was now the new national representative. And so the minister was out. Many people at that time, I'm glad we had to do it over because it puts some context. So many people at that time, prior to 75, they were nervous because they realized that the minister should be the one that should ascend. And New York was a powerful mosque, was a powerful city. New York had many mosques, and New York had a lot of influence in the nation. And so there was a lot of nervousness going on in Chicago, some backroom politics, and there was even talk about guns. And if the minister had made a move, that, there was talk about taking him out and all this type of stuff. All of this was going on while you're watching Savior's Day 1975 in the back. Okay. So the minister was being watched. All right. He was being observed, right? And if you notice in that Savior's Day speech, all of the people got up and spoke, but when the minister got up and spoke, he really got the people going, and the people responded, with tears in his eyes, even with tears and sadness in his heart. The people responded. When the imam came up there, people almost fell asleep, right? But anyway, what I'm trying to drive at is that the minister asked the imam, if you know the best step, if you know the next step that we should take, then you go ahead and lead there, if you know what the next step is. And the imam says, I do know the next step. So hence the minister relinquished relinquished that authority, and just said, I will follow you as long as you do right by your father. Well, it's interesting that Ali's son, Ali ibn Talib, his son, Hassan, who became the 5th Khalifa in Islam, right? Because you had Abu Bakr, who died of natural causes. You had Umar, who was assassinated. You have Uthman, who was assassinated, and it was because of Uthman that a lot of fitna, a lot of problems occurred in the Ummah, and as a result of Uthman being assassinated, Ali was assassinated. And the reason why Uthman was assassinated was because of what do you call Uthman, who was the 3rd Khalifa. He started to kind of go back to nepotism, meaning appointing people from his tribe into positions of power. Whereas during the time of the Prophet would appoint people from different tribes, different races, different colors, right? And this is the reason why, there's talk that the reason why Bilal left is because soon after the Prophet passed away, racism started to creep back into the Ummah. Classism started to creep back into the Ummah again. So Bilal left and went to Syria, right? And it was because of Hussein that Bilal came back and called the Adhan. That's another story, all right? But when the Prophet passed away, Bilal never called the Adhan again until the Prophet's grandson asked him to come and please call the Adhan. And when he called the Adhan that day, the people in Medina, all right, got up and they all ran to the mosque with tears in their eyes because they were like, wow, the Prophet must be back. Because Bilal, they recognized that Adhan, they recognized that call. But anyhow, because of nepotism, Uthman, there was some problems going on, and Uthman was assassinated. And as a result of him being assassinated, and they were upset at Ali because Ali did not take revenge on those that assassinated Uthman, it led to Ali being assassinated, okay, by the Khawarij, all right, which was a group of fanatics, a group of radicals, what you want to say. And so, but going back to Hassan, the 5th Khalifa, Hassan relinquished his right to the caliphate to Muawiyah. And Muawiyah was the son of Abu Sufyan. And Abu Sufyan was the chief disbeliever who opposed Prophet Muhammad and fought against Prophet Muhammad in the Battle of Badr and subsequent battles. Abu Sufyan's wife was a woman by the name of Hind, and Hind was the woman who ate the liver of Hamza, who was the uncle of Prophet Muhammad. So during the Battle of Badr, Hamza slaughtered, right? And they had these little duels, and Hamza slaughtered her father. And Ali, I believe he slaughtered or killed her brother, all right? And Hind never forgot that, right? Hind wanted revenge. So Hind, the wife of Abu Sufyan, waited for an opportunity during the next battle to hire a black slave by the name of, let me see if I can remember his name. He was a black slave. I think it was Waraka that murdered, that actually threw the staff but anyhow, it was a slave. She hired someone, a slave. She promised him his freedom. And what she did is that if you would during the height of the battle, if you would throw your spear and kill Hamza for me, I will give you your freedom. And he did. All right, he did. Hamza at that time was called the Lion of Islam, right? And he defended the Prophet during the time when he was in Mecca before the immigration took place, the hijrah, the first hijrah to Abyssinia, okay, where the Muslims left. Because during the time of the persecution of the Muslims, it was so bad that, the Prophet said, okay, a group of people can leave. So some people stayed and some people left, and they went to Abyssinia. The second hijrah was to Medina, all right? And that's when the Prophet left, and he put Ali in the bed, and the disbelievers thought that was the Prophet in the bed, and it was really Ali. And when they saw that it was Ali, they decided not to plunge their knives, because if they did, it would be war. It would be warfare, right? Because Ali was the member of an important clan, Beni Hashim. So anyway, Hassan said the same thing that the minister said, okay, only in a different time. Hassan said to Muawiyah, I will give you the caliphate as long as you believe in Allah and his messenger and you do right. And secondly, as long as you stop talking about my father over the minbar, right? Because Muawiyah would talk about Ali like a dog, okay, over the minbar. Now, mind you, this is Ali now. This is someone who was raised by the Prophet in the Prophet's home, okay, and was near and dear to the Prophet, right? And who people thought was going to be the first Caliph, but it didn't happen that way, right? And so there's a lot of confusion about who should have been the Caliph, right? But many scholars say that the Prophet never wanted to choose a successor because he wanted it to be open, right? And so the way that Abu Bakr was elected was because Umar, the statement that Abu Bakr made that, caused Umar to realize that, this is the man that should lead the Umar. And then, of course, the way Umar was brought in was through Shura. And then, of course, there's other ways that the Uthman was elected. And then eventually Ali was given an opportunity to. So there were different ways by which these four divinely rightful caliphs were brought in to office. And after Ali passed or was assassinated, his son Hassan took over leadership for a short time. But Muawiyah had desires on being the Khalifa, and it was through Muawiyah that you had the Beni Umayyad, the Umayyad the Umayyad Empire, is a descendant of Muawiyah. Muawiyah is the son of Abu Sufyan. And Abu Sufyan was the major chief of the disbelievers during the time of the Prophet. And he fought vehemently against Prophet Muhammad. And his mother was named Hind. And Hind, as I said again, was the woman who not only hated the Prophet and hated the family of Muhammad, but ate the liver of 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 uh, uh, of of, um, of Hamza. Of Hamza, that's right. And she tried to eat the liver and she couldn't eat it. So she had to spit it out, right? And later on, she tried to eat his heart, okay, and whatnot. That's how this woman was, right? Um, and so fast forward, so Hassan says to Muawiyah, look, I'm gonna give you the leadership, but stop talking about my father. Minister Farrakhan said, as long as you know the direction to go, you could have the leadership, but please don't talk about your father, and please be right by your father, right? Honor your father. Don't talk about your father. Same thing Hassan said, repeating history, right? In a small sense. And but what did Muawiyah did? Muawiyah went back on his word, and Muawiyah talked about Ali like a dog, and not only that, Muawiyah went back on his other word, which was the third part of the treaty was that after Muawiyah passed away, the leadership would come back to Hassan, okay, or to Hussein, but instead Muawiyah was politicking behind the scenes and ended up giving the caliphate to his son Yazid. And everyone who studied Islamic history or Islamic sciences know that Yazid was a crooked, wicked man and should not have been the head of the Muslims. But he ended up being the head of the Muslims. And not only was he the head of the Muslims, but he was the one indirectly responsible for the death of Hussein, who was the beloved grandson of Prophet Muhammad. And then some say that Muawiyah coaxed one of Hassan's wives, to poison him, and that's how he died. So what I'm trying to set up, what I'm trying to explain to you is that as soon as the Prophet passed away, that's when everything started. That's when all the hypocrites and all the backroom politics came, and so we have to be ready for that. We have to be strong. We have to have a strong footing, have to have a strong foundation, because what happened back in the time of the Holy Prophet happened in the time of Messenger Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, okay? And so understanding the history of the past will give us a clear understanding of the history of today. And we'll be ready for the history that's going to play out whenever it plays out, okay? Whenever it plays out. So that's why it's important for us to study the history of Moses, the history of Muhammad, the history of Joshua, the history of Jesus, so we can understand. Brother Jabril used to teach us all the time that we are walking through scripture, okay? We are walking through scripture. Some of the scripture is historical, some of it is for today, right? So I talk about these characters, these individuals, because as a result of all of this confusion, you have the Shia, you have the Sunni. During the time of the Prophet, you didn't have no Shia, you didn't have no Sunni. It was just Muslims. We were Muslims. That was it, right? And so as a result of that, you have a group today called the Salaf, or the Salaf Asadi, right? Those who want to go back to the pious predecessors, the way that the pious predecessors lived, which was the first 3 generations that Prophet Muhammad talked about, that would be the best generations, the ones that followed him to the letter, okay? But unfortunately, a lot of those brothers and sisters who follow the Salafi movement have in an effort to go back to that, have become what the minister calls guerrillas, right? They've grafted themselves back, and they're so harsh and so merciless in their interpretation of Islam that people are just appalled by their behavior. But during the time of the Prophet, he talked about the Sahaba was the best, and then the next generation and the generation after that. After that, Islam would not even be recognizable. Okay, you didn't have Hanafi Muslims, Maliki Muslims, Shafi Muslims. None of that existed during the time of the Prophet. None of that existed. All of that came in later. All of that came in as a result. You didn't have Sufi Muslims, you didn't have Sufism, and you didn't have all of these things that you have now in Islam, which is confusing. Okay, you just had Islam. You did have political Shiaism, right? That was the party of Ali. Those were the brothers and sisters who recognized that Ali should have been the Khalifa, but it wasn't religious Shiaism like you have in Iran. Was political Shiaism, meaning that they believed based on what the Prophet said and the evidences, okay, that Ali had the right to leadership. But Ali didn't want to make a fuss about it. He loved Abu Bakr. He loved Uthman. He loved Umar. In fact, they married each other's. They gave their children in marriage to one another. Okay, they loved each other. In fact, Umar said, no, Ali. I'm sorry. Ali made a comment one time. He said, at least I had Umar and Abu Bakr as my counselors. Now I don't have anybody, after they had passed away. They had me, but I don't have them because they were gone. And they used Ali. Ali was a scholar. He was an Arabic scholar. He was a hadith. A lot of the hadiths that you read about the Prophet was narrated by Ali, but also a lot of the hadiths that you read were also narrated by Aisha, right? And Aisha was a scholar, okay, in her own right? So the Hafsa, all of these women were scholars. They lived with the Prophet. They saw the Prophet on a daily basis. So where did this thing about male chauvinism where women can't ascend to leadership? People used to come from all over to sit with Aisha, to hear her wisdom, because she lived with the Prophet, right? Not only was Aisha a scholar of hadith, a scholar of Islamic sciences, but she was a scholar of medicine, right? She used to teach about medicine. She used to sit with the Prophet and watch the Prophet discuss medicine with the doctors at that time. And she became a scholar in her own right. But what I'm explaining to you is that what happened after the Prophet passed away was a gradual decline in the Islamic movement, because it got so bad that not only was the Prophet's family killed, many of them were killed, including Hussein on the fields of Karbala, but many of the Muslims were killing and fighting one another in different battles. The Battle of Siffin, right? You had Muslims fighting Muslims, brothers who, it's like you and me, Brother Joshua, fighting one another in a battlefield, right? Because we have a disagreement over something. This is what happened in the history of Islam. You had Aisha on one side and you had Ali on another side fighting one another, ready to kill one another, right? Because of a disagreement, right? And this is what happened as a result of a digression of when the Prophet left. When the Prophet left, these are the things that happened. There's a couple of good books that people might want to get. One is called After the Prophet, the Epic Story of the Shia-Sunni Split by Leslie Hazelton. I'll put that out there for you. The other book is called The Heirs of Muhammad by Barnaby Rogerson. And this one also talks about the Islam's first century and the origins of the Sunni Shia split that brought about what you have today in America, in the Islamic world. You have the Sunnis and you have the Shia, and that's what that's all about. If Ali was alive today, Ali would have probably be saying, "What is all this nonsense about Shia and and the imams and all of this type of stuff?" And he loved Abu Bakr, Aisha. He loved these people. Okay, he did not hate these people. And the way that the Shias are talking about Aisha and the way they talk about Abu Bakr is deplorable, and vice versa, and vice versa. Which shows you the digression and why the minister makes the statement that if we follow them, they will take us straight to hell. And it's true. It's true. If we follow them, they'll take us straight to hell. Right? So we should not follow them. But we should study the history so we don't make the same mistakes that they made.
You're teaching, Dr. Anthony Ishmael. Praise be to Allah, and people are showing you love all around the world. Brother Daniel E., good teaching. To Salima, we're gonna make sure we get it in the chat. Minister Jamil says, Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem. Brother James says, excellent teaching, Brother Anthony. I need your number. We need to talk. One of those 10,000s. Let's connect. Okay, beautiful. That's what it's about. All the scholars.
So I just want to say this. I just want to set that, brother. This is the things that Brother Jabril ingrained in many of us. And I said earlier, Brother Jabril did not have special students. Please, anybody who gets on your podcast and tells you that they were a special student is a liar. Okay? There were no special students. Okay? We were all students. And we all had our portion that we brought to the table. Everybody, anybody, Brother Jabril utilized a lot of people, brothers and sisters. They had talents and skills from writing to theater to journalism to research to helping him with the ministry, to helping him with his mission in general. Okay, but one of the things, as I said, Brother Jabril did with us is he got us into studying history, studying scripture, because he said to us, and I'll never forget, he used to quote it often, 1 Peter 3:15, but honor the Messiah as the Lord in your hearts, and be ready at all times to answer anyone who asks you to explain the hope that you have in you, right? Meaning that we got to be ready. We got to study. We got to be ready to defend the minister. We got to be ready to defend the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We have to know that Allah, who came in the person of Master Muhammad, is Allah, who came in the person of Master Muhammad. We got to know that. And if we don't know that, then everything else is moot, right? You could be good in the domestic life, but if you can't defend Allah, who came to the person of Master Muhammad, and why, then it's moot, right? Because each one is a foundation upon the other one. Prior to 75, we did not have a strong foundation in Master Muhammad. So it was very easy for the Imam to come and say, my father lied to you. My father lied. That man on the wall, who he didn't like, by the way, right, was not Allah. He was just some mystic guy that came around and sold silks and stuff like that. And we went for it. Why? Because we heard the Imam's name was written on the back of the wall, on the back of the door, and all of that, right? I mean, may Allah bless Imam Muhammad for the good that he did. Ameen. All right? And he had his job to do, and he did it, and he did it well, right? Because when I came in the nation in 1980, 81, man, the Muslims were shell-shocked, right? They were shell-shocked over what the Imam had done, so much so that the rebuilding effort the Muslims who came back, and many of them, would tell stories about how people in their family were in insane asylums, the people in their families went right back to the grave to doing drugs and prostitution and selling drugs and all of the things that they did prior to coming in the nation. They went back to the vomit. So many of the Muslims, man, they were shell shocked when they came in. So when they didn't want nothing to do with no Islamic sciences. When I first came in the nation, they didn't want nothing to do with no Islamic sciences. Don't even bring no salat, and whatnot. We're gonna pray like the Honorable Ajman said to pray, right? So Minister Farrakhan understood that. He understood that we had to gradually bring the people along and bring them along gradually, and he did. The Honorable Minister Farrakhan has done a masterful job. And he did what Wallace should have done, but Wallace didn't do. The Imam wanted to rush everything down our throat. So I remember in 1976, I wanted to join the Nation of Islam. I was a young man, maybe about 12, 13, 14, somewhere around there. I wanted to join the nation. And, so I called the mosque down in Brooklyn. And I called the brother and I said, hey, brother, I want to come and I want to join the nation. I want to get my X because I had read this Life magazine or Ebony magazine, and Muhammad Ali had on his FOI uniform looking sharp, and all the believers in their white and their FOI uniform. I called the mosque and the brother told me, man, we don't have no more FOI. We got rid of all of that. You come down here, you take your Shahada, and we give you a holy name. I was like, what is all of that? I want to get my X. What holy name? What are you talking about? What is that Shahada? What is Shahada? Right? So by 1976, from February of 1975 to February of 1976, the nation was different. Nation was different. Sisters started taking off the garments, right? The FOI was dismantled. I remember Yusuf Shah telling me that he did not understand. He loved the family of Muhammad. He was loyal to Muhammad, to the Imam, but he couldn't understand why he would dismantle the FOI. And it was like tearing his heart out. It was like tearing a piece of him out. And the Imam appointed Yusuf Shah to be an Imam. Yusuf Shah told me, I ain't no Imam, brother. He said, I'm not no Imam. I knew my place. I knew my portion. I knew my gifts. And my gifts was making men, was teaching and training men, not being an Imam. So he respected the post of the minister. He respected the job of the minister because then he realized that was something he could not do. That was not his portion. You see? But he couldn't understand it. And many times I would be with Captain Shah. We would be driving in a limousine, in Don King's limousine. And there would be, I told you the incident about the one brother that was he was holding up traffic in Midtown Manhattan. And nobody could get this brother to get out of the middle of the street. And Captain Shah got out of rolled out the window and said, hey, brother, hey, come here, man, come here. And he gave the brother $20. He said, now, come on now. You can't be acting like this, all this foolishness. Get off the street now. Behave yourself. And he got out of the way. And we were amazed. We were like, the brother Joe Mafia, he was in the back seat. Joe Mafia was Don King's accountant who tried to take Don King down and whatnot. But anyway, that's another story. But Joe Mafia was in the back seat and I was in the front seat. And we were like amazed, like, Captain, who was that? And he said, that's just a brother who's a casualty of war. We was like, wow. He said he was one of the brothers in the nation. He was one of the FOI. He just went crazy, that's all. And it was the way he said it was kind of somber. It was somber. He realized that, he respected the Imam. He went to Juma. He went to Talim. Many of his friends were still loyal to the Imam, Ishmael Shamsuddin and Uthman Shah. And I met all those brothers, right? And they were very loyal to the Imam, but deep down inside, they realized that something is missing. Something is missing. We're missing something. Even Imam Siraj Wahad said it to me on the corner of Fulton Street. He said, with me and Brother Minister Louis Omar, who was the minister over the Brooklyn Mosque at one time, Imam Siraj Wahad said to me to my face, he said, brother, when I was in the nation, he says, I've been a Sunni Muslim Imam for over 20 years. He says, but the unity and the brotherhood that we had in the FOI is unmatched.
Mm.
Unmatched. He says, nothing like what we had, brother. Nothing like what we had. So, the Imam had his work to do, but we have to be ready. We have to get ourselves ready for anything. I don't know what will happen. No one knows what will happen. What happened prior to 1975 was a super military operation that only Allah and the angels know about. Okay? But we all thought the Elijah Muhammad, we knew that the Elijah Muhammad was going to go away and study, but we didn't know he was going to leave through death. Right? And we all got faked out. Right? The shake and fake. Right? So, and people weren't ready for that. So when the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said in 1981 that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is physically alive, many of those who came back to help him, including people who weren't in the nation, stopped walking with him. I remember one brother in particular, I got his name I don't want to mention his name on your podcast to put him out there like that, but he was a brilliant student, man, a brilliant minister. He walked away. So I can't walk with the minister. I don't believe that. Now, I'm going to be very honest with you. I didn't really believe it either, okay, when he first mentioned it. And I'm going to be honest, I believed when he said it, I said, well, he is alive. He's alive in me. He's alive in you. He's alive in you. But no, there was a brother in the mosque number 7. He's not around anymore, but I'm going to mention his name because some of your listeners will love to hear his name. His name was Brother Saladin. And Brother Saladin was a powerful youth minister. Powerful. Okay? We had some powerful youth ministers back then, brother. We had Brother Saladin. We had Brother Michael Muhammad in Chicago. That brother could blow, right? And whatnot. So powerful ministers, young youth ministers. But Brother Saladin, he spent 3 hours wrangling with me. Like Jacob wrangled with on Jacob's ladder, wrangled with the devil. He wrangled with me. We were going at it. Allah sent him to me to get my head straight. And now he's not even around anymore. He don't even want to be called Saladin, right? You know what he wants to be called? Saul. Don't call me Saladin. His beautiful holy name. Call me Saul, right? When I saw him in Philadelphia on the streets. Allah sent that brother to me, and we wrangled about this. He brought me scripture. He brought me evidence that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was alive. And when he was done with me, I was like, wow, my mind was blown, right? I said, man, I bear witness. So by the time I went to Phoenix, and was under Brother Jabril, I already had that straight. I already believed that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was alive, right? So when I got under Brother Jabril, right, that's when I started to learn more about the domestic life. All right, and whatnot, and Brother Jabril prepared us through the old study guides about the messenger's domestic life, and at that time we got to meet some of the wives of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad because they would come through Phoenix, so we would get to meet them and talk with them, and they also taught as well, and they shared. Like I remember Sister Evelyn spoke to the believers, and she told us how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that when he dies, that his body would be embalmed to last 10,000 years. Well, that didn't happen prior to 75, right? That did not happen. Okay, Sister Tanetta taught about what, Elijah Muhammad, and then others talked about how, other ministers that would come to Phoenix, they would talk about what the Elijah Muhammad said, including the grandson of Imam Sultan, right? Who had mentioned that the mole was on the wrong side of the face, okay, and things like that. So there was physical evidence, but there was scriptural evidence, right? And all of this is what helped me to understand what the minister said in 1981. So I didn't really believe in the beginning, but I didn't give up on it, right? I just didn't have that understanding. So when Brother Alim, when Dr. Alim, when the Muslims were calling Dr. Alim a hypocrite and all kind of stuff, how dare you? How dare you call that man a hypocrite and whatnot, you self-righteous, pompous Negro, Muslims, whatnot. You don't talk about that man like that, right? You don't know where that man came from and what he was dealing with. You let the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, let the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan deal with him. You leave him alone. Because when I came in the nation, it was people like Brother Dr. Alim, who at that time was called Minister Maurice. They were the ones who were there to rebuild the nation. Right? Right? And Dr. Alim was intelligent, phenomenal teacher. Okay? Not only of how to eat to live, but we don't know what we would go through if we lost our wife and our husband and our son and our daughter. You don't know what you would feel like, how you would react, or how you would be. So we should have mercy, and we should ask Allah, we should pray for him and ask Allah to pray for that brother to bring him back, right, to his right mind, if he's not in his right mind. But we shouldn't throw stones at him, Who are you to throw stones? Those who cast the first stone, it means that you without sin. Everybody got some sins and some stuff going on in their closet, right, in private. So, when I remember when you had brought that to my attention, and I looked at the video, Dr. Allen, he says, "Well, I don't know, I don't believe, I don't really understand." And people are saying, "Well, how could you not understand being around the minister?" We don't know what's in people's hearts, right? I was in the nation from 81, 82. It wasn't until 83 that I actually believed in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad physically being alive. So we have to have patience. Not everybody's going to understand right away. And we have to be careful how we treat one another. We have to be careful, and I'm saying this straight up. We got to be careful how we treat those believers who come back. Okay? Be careful how we treat them, right? Because Allah is ordained to bring them back. Only Allah can bring them back, right? And when they come back, we have to treat them well. We have to treat them like the prodigal son, right? We have to treat them, put on the best coat, not run them away, giving them 300, oh, brother, here's 300 final calls. Welcome back, brother. Here's 300 final calls. Well, brother, I just want to gradually work myself back in. No. Ain't got time for working in. 300 final calls, right? And that's what some of the laborers do to those who come back, and that's wrong. We should welcome them back and have mercy on them and work with them and talk with them and counsel them and make them stronger, right? Make them strong again. Not run them out, because Allah's watching you. Allah's watching you. Allah's watching, and I'm saying this because I've seen this happen. And it's wrong. It's wrong. Too many times I've seen laborers not utilize the strengths and talents and skills of the believers in their midst. And that's one of the things I loved about Brother Jabril. When I first went to Phoenix, he gave me a skills and interest form. And he said, fill that out, brother. Tell me what your skills and interests are. What do you want to do? How do you want to help us? Right? Nobody ever did that when I came in Mosque number 7. Right? I was trained. I got great training under Minister Kareem. I got great training under Captain Alpha Farrakhan, and whatnot. But no one ever asked me that in Mosque number 7. It's not until I went to Mosque number 32 under Brother Jabril's leadership that he gave me a form. I was shocked. Really, you want to know my skills and my interests? You really want my help? And he says, yeah, I want your help. What do you want to do? How are you going to help us, brother? You're in college. What could you do? What can you do? And he put us to work. He put us to work. Nobody in the mosque was idle. Everybody did something. Everybody participated, right? Everybody, right? If and he said, Brother Jabril would say to us, he says, I am not a mechanic. Don't ask me how to fix a car. That is not my thing. All I will do is pay you the money, brother. Fix the car, right? That's not my portion, right? But somebody else has that skill. Somebody else has that talent. Somebody else could put up sheetrock. Somebody else could do carpentry. Somebody else knows how to wire computers and so on. The skills. So we need to utilize the skills and talents and the brain trust of the nation, of the young people that are coming up, and not run them away, right? And run them into Satan's arms. We need to utilize them, right? All the business-minded individuals and the sisters who have ideas and business ideas and the men who have business ideas, we should be tapping them, not getting intimidated because we're afraid they're going to take our little petty position, and that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. We're not going to grow like this. We're not going to grow like this. So again, I don't know. I'm sorry I ran off. I'm ranting and raving. I'm sorry about that.
Now you good, Dr. Anthony, Ishmael, and people are showing you love all around the world. Brother Daniel E., thank you. Said we have to learn the history of the Nation of Islam and study the fall of the Nation of Islam. Thank you very much. Sister Miriam says, to Allah, we should focus on our own personal relationship with Allah. If we are doing that properly, we don't have time to judge others. Sister Naima said, as quoting you, who are you to throw stones? Teach. Brother Daniel says the nation, everybody in the nation has to utilize their talents and skills. Beautiful. Great. We have a quick 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of People's Podcast. Thank you for every like, share, every subscription. And we're also grateful for every anonymous Cash App that we receive. Thank you all to everyone all around the world. There we go.
Those services. Sister Miriam's I Love Me, children's book and coloring book, and now Spanish book. All 3 available on Amazon.com. Sister Naima's Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country, right here in the studios of Atlanta. Student Minister Sharif Muhammad's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ. Available on adulsharif.com. And lastly, Brother Joshua Muhammad's book, Cleopatra, as well as No Father, No Excuse. Both available on Amazon. Those services.
Okay, wonderful. And yes, sir. We also have 2 more quick questions for our brother, Dr. Anthony Ishmael. People are showing love, bearing witness to this great scholarship. All praises due to Allah. Thank you, and Ramadan Mubarak to everyone who is watching again. I wanted to ask you, sir, about your time with Abba bin Amin bin Israel.
Yes, I visited. I was able to visit the Holy Land of Israel in 2006, and I had a very good friend of mine. His name is Abaravia HaKohen. He's one of the priests in the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem, which was under the leadership of Abba Ben Ami, and also we all know about Prince Aziel in Israel. I had the opportunity to visit the community and to go on what they call a holy visitation. And it was absolutely phenomenal because I'm a student of the Bible, I'm a student of the Quran, and being there, they took me to places that I read about in the Bible, you know, the battlefield where David slew Goliath, you know, uh, the pass where Samson slew the Philistines with the donkey jawbones, and you see all the donkey bones on the path, and basically walked the areas and went to all the historical sites, Sodom and Gomorrah, what's left of it. And it was a very, very phenomenal experience. I visited the Sea of Galilee. I swam in the Sea of Galilee. I put my feet in the River Jordan. I walked. I was in the Garden of Gethsemane. Went to many of the sites, the holy sites that are still there, and I got to sit with some of the African Arab community that have been there for over close to they've been there for hundreds of years, since the time of Saladin, when he took over, when he conquered Jerusalem and took Jerusalem from the Christians. Their families have been in Jerusalem. And so I had an opportunity to sit and talk with Abba Ben Ami, and it was a phenomenal experience. And the minister is absolutely correct when he says that community is definitely doing a messianic work. Now, Ben Ami may not be the Messiah, okay, but the community is definitely doing a messianic work. And so much so that when I saw the community and what they were doing in the Holy Land, because they started out with 400 people that left Chicago and went to Liberia, and from Liberia they went to Israel, and that community has grown from 400 to over 2,000, and they're starting to move all over Israel, okay, and reclaim the Holy Land. And so that's the reason why the Zionists, people like Netanyahu and them, they want to deport them. They want to get them out of there, okay, because they pose a threat to their Zionism, And so I sat down with Abba Ben Ami, and he's a phenomenal person, and you could just sense the anointing coming from him, and the piercing of his eyes as he spoke, and he spoke fluent Hebrew. He learned and he spoke fluent Hebrew. I believe he knew Arabic as well. And just a phenomenal individual. He passed away. He passed away about 2 or 3 years ago, and the community still exists. They still exist to this day. And unfortunately, some of the young people in the community are in the IDF. And that was something that was negotiated between the community and the Israeli government, that some of the young people would have to serve in the IDF, and it was told that they would serve in non-combative roles, but that changed as a result of what happened last year. So now you have a lot of these young brothers and sisters who are fighting in the IDF, which is the Israeli Defense Force, and they're on the front lines fighting against our brothers and sisters in Gaza. When I was there, I met with the people from Gaza. I met with the people in Nazareth. Nazareth, the city of Nazareth, is an Arab town. Bethlehem is an Arab town. Okay, mostly Arab dominated, right? It's only during Easter and Christmas time that the Christians make an influx into Bethlehem and Nazareth because of Jesus, right? But primarily, you hear the Adon being called in Nazareth, and the Adon being called in Bethlehem. And I also went to Al-Aqsa Mosque. You know, I had an opportunity to go inside and pray. Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is the third holiest mosque in all of Islam, and to sit with the the Palestinian scholars at that time. I was able to sit with them and hear them out and talk about their plight and so on. I got an opportunity to sit with the Bedouins in the desert, you know, in the desert of Judea, and to visit Mamashik, which was a Christian town, you know. So I think, you know, every Christian or everyone who subscribes to Christianity that says that they're a follower of Jesus owes it to themselves to visit Jerusalem or visit the Holy Land, to visit the land of Israel, because it will bring alive what you're reading about in the book. Just like as a Muslim, right, I would want to visit Mecca and Medina, and not just make Hajj and Umrah, but I want to visit the different sites where the Battle of Badr took place, or where the different battles that took place, where the Prophet lived and where he walked and so on, in these different sites, the mosque of two Qiblas and so on. You know, all of this is part of the history, you know, that we should study. Sister Tynetta and Brother Jabril, they pushed us to study history, to study the history. I remember Brother Jabril used to have like 10 different versions of the Bible on his table. And I would ask him, why do you have 10 versions of the Bible on the table? He said, because everyone has a different translation, brother. You know, and he would buy, I remember one day he argued with the paper boy because the paper boy used to deliver the newspaper, the Arizona Republic and the Arizona Gazette. And the paper boy had the audacity to tell Brother Jabril, he says, well, it's the same paper. Why do you want two different papers? He says, it's not the same thing. One is conservative and one is liberal, you know, and they're going to have a different perspective, you know. So, I mean, Brother Jabril, you would go with him to the newsstand and he would pick up the New York Herald and the New York Times and Newsweek, the Arizona Republic, the Arizona Gazette. He would have the LA Times, the Chicago Tribune, the Chicago Defender. He would have all these papers. I'm like, Brother Jabril, what are you doing with all these papers? What are you doing? He said, I'm going to read them. Look, let me say it. Whenever Brother Jabril wanted some downtime, he would watch the fights. He would watch boxing. Or he would read. These are things that Brother Jabril loved, was eating Sister Evelyn's bread and reading his boxing magazines. Or if he was really stressed, he would go to the batting cage. Because you all know that Brother Jabril was at one time had an opportunity to play for the New York Giants, right? I believe it was the New York Giants. He got scouted by the Giants. He was an excellent baseball player, and so much so that he turned down an opportunity to play with the Giants to become a Muslim, you know. So he would go to the batting cage and hit balls, you know, and stuff to relieve his stress, you know, when he was stressed out. And other than that, he would eat, you know, he loved Sister Evelyn's Muslim bread, and he would beat the sisters up for not knowing how to make bread. He said, why are you buying Wonder Bread and wheat bread out of the store? You better learn how to make bread, right? And he would drink his milk and he would eat his bread, and, you know, he would eat fish and things like that sometimes, but he loved that bread, and he would watch the fights, you know, and he would read boxing magazines. And that was the only frivolous, or what you would call, things that he would do to kind of like get away from what he was, you know, the main mission that he was doing. That was the things that he would do, you know. So when he was sick, you know, one of the things that I mentioned to one of the brothers, that I asked him when I was when I was at his janazah, you know, one of the brothers who you know came to the janazah, I said, brother, let me ask you a question. When Brother Jabril was alive, did you ever bring him a loaf of bread? Did you ever bring him a boxing magazine? You know, so many people say they love Brother Jabril, but did you ever bring him a loaf of bread from Sister Evelyn? Did you ever ask Sister Evelyn to make him some bread and bring it to him and whatnot? right? You say that you love Brother Jabril. Really? Really? You know? But, you know, brothers had to shut me up, man, at the janaza because I was hot, at all of some of the people who were there that I know did not love Brother Jabril. They just wanted to be there. They just want not the one in Chicago, in Phoenix. And I don't get in trouble for this, but it's okay. I'm all right. But some of the brothers who were in the janaza that shouldn't have been in that janaza, they shouldn't have been in that repast, right? They were just there. But none of them ever brought the brother a loaf of bread or ever brought him a boxing magazine, or went by and just checked on him and said, Assalamu alaikum, brother, and whatnot. So, and that's Brother Jabril. But we got to do that with each other. When we know our Muslim brother is sick, we should go visit him in the hospital, especially during the month of Ramadan. We get extra blessings for that. We get extra blessings for that, So as Muslims, brother, we should try to keep good company. We should practice forgiveness daily. Forgive those who trespass against us, and we should maintain our health. We should take care of our temple. We should think positively. We should practice gratitude every day. Some people didn't wake up this morning. We should be thankful that we woke up this morning, right? Some people are going to die during Ramadan, okay? We should be grateful that Allah woke us up this morning, and we should strive to show patience to one another, And so these are just some of the things that I believe we should strive to do during the month of Ramadan and beyond Ramadan, and beyond Ramadan, And as Second Timothy says, study and show thyself approved unto God. Study yourself, study and show thyself approved unto God. Study the scriptures and study the study guides and study the Quran. And as I said, Brother Jabril used to have 5 and 6 different versions of the Holy Quran. And I find myself doing that. If you come to my library, I got like 10 different versions of the Holy Quran. But I have like 5 or 7 different versions of the Holy Bible. So I understand what he meant by that. Each one has a different interpretation because we don't know how to speak Arabic and Hebrew. So, but I'm striving to now. I want to learn how to read the Quran in Arabic so I can extract the true meaning of what's going on, and also Hebrew. So inshallah. I'm sorry. What's your next question, brother?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Question,
People are showing you love all around the world. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Brother Daniel E, for always showing love. Thank you, everyone who was watching. And speaking of Ramadan, as everybody's getting ready to break fast right now. But yes, sir, Dr. Anthony, this is just another part in our ongoing series and ongoing saga. So we want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Can't wait to upload this to YouTube. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off for the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you all for watching.